Hours before Caitlin Clark took the floor last night, a national broadcast put the top 5 MVP candidates up on the screen. Arjar Wilson, Kelsey Mitchell, Paige Bueckers, Olivia Miles, Brianna Stewart. Caitlin Clark was not on the list. Her own teammate made it, she didn't. Then she went out and dropped a triple-double, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists on 9 shots. Her 4th career triple-double, which now ties her for 3rd all-time in WNBA history and makes her the greatest triple-double machine among guards the league has ever had. The Fever won their 5th straight game, and somewhere, the graphic that left her off the MVP list is aging like milk. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. For most of this season, the story on Caitlin Clark was that she was finished, overrated, a media creation, and based on the actual words her critics used, we were not just a little wrong, we were completely, embarrassingly wrong. Let me show you exactly how wrong. Back in the spring, a WNBA analyst wrote an entire opinion piece calling Caitlin Clark overrated and petulant. She compared the biggest star in women's basketball to Tim Tebow. She said the hype around Clark had been manufactured by the league, and the headline she ran it under? The Great White Nope. That was the temperature, that was what passed for analysis, not her shooting is down, not she's working back from injury, a flat-out claim that Caitlin Clark was a marketing product, not a basketball player. And to be fair to the doubters, they had something to point at. Clark's 2025 season was wrecked by injuries. She played just 13 games. This season started rough too. She dealt with a lingering back problem, missed time, and when she came back, she went through a genuinely bad stretch, averaging around 11 points a game and shooting 35% from the field. If you only watched those weeks, you could convince yourself the doubters were right. So the narrative hardened, and then the media did what the media does. It started making things up. At one point, a headline ran claiming Clark had described the Fever season as, quote, everything but fun and full of frustration. Sounds like a struggling star cracking under pressure, right? There's just one problem. She never said it. Nobody ever asked her. Clark came out publicly and said it herself. Nobody ever asked me that. That's wrong. Talk about my play if I play well or play poorly. Talk about our team. Think about what that means. A reporter put a quote in the mouth of the most famous athlete in the sport about her own emotional state based on nothing. And it's not one incident. There were fabricated rumors she wanted to leave the Fever, rumors the team was about to fire the head coach, rumors of a feud between Clark and Stephanie White that Clark had to personally come out and kill. This is what Clark was actually dealing with, not just tough opponents, a story being written about her, around her, without her, and often against her. And here's the thing about a narrative like that. Once it exists, everyone starts grading her on it. Every miss is proof she's overrated. Every rough game is proof the hype was fake. The Tim Tebow comparison gets recycled. The manufactured line gets repeated. And slowly, quietly, a generational talent gets buried under a story that was never fair to begin with. So let me ask you a question. What actually happens when you take the best shooter the sport has ever seen, let her get healthy, and let her play? You get the last 2 weeks. It started on July 17th when Clark dropped 45 points on the Seattle Storm. Not just a career high, a franchise record, the first 40-point, 10-assist game in WNBA history. She became the fastest player ever to reach 200 career threes, and she sealed it with a 26-foot dagger with under 40 seconds left. That was the moment the narrative cracked, and she has not stopped since. Over her last 5 games, Clark is averaging nearly 30 points and 9 assists. Every one of those games is a Fever win. The team has ripped off 5 straight. They've now scored 100 or more points in 5 consecutive games, which is the longest streak in the history of the league. This is the best offense the WNBA has ever seen, and Caitlin Clark is the point guard running it. Which brings us back to last night. 26, 10 and 10 against Portland, and the number that should stop you is 9. 26 points on 9 shots. That is not a chucker. That is not a volume scorer inflating stats. That is brutal, surgical efficiency, getting to the free throw line 17 times because she attacked all night. Her coach, Stephanie White, said afterward she didn't even realize Clark had a triple-double until they got back to the locker room. And the part White was most impressed by wasn't the scoring. It was that all 10 of Clark's rebounds came on the defensive end, the thing critics said she couldn't do. In that same game, she became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,500 points and 650 assists, 4th career triple-double, tied for 3rd all-time. The all-time leader in triple-doubles by a guard. She is 24 years old. Now hold all of that up next to the Great White Nope. Hold it up next to manufactured. Hold it up next to a headline inventing a quote about how her season was full of frustration. The doubters told us a story. The stat sheet told the truth. And here's what makes it almost funny. The MVP graphic that left her off the list. It ran hours before the triple-double. The analysts who called her overrated in the spring have gone suspiciously quiet in the summer. The people who spent a year explaining why she wasn't really that good are now watching her put up numbers nobody in league history has ever put up, and saying very little. Because that's how this always goes with Caitlin Clark. The criticism arrives loud and early, the receipts arrive later, and every single time, the receipts win. So were we wrong about Caitlin Clark? Some of us were. The ones who called her a media creation were wrong. The ones who said the hype was manufactured were wrong. The ones who wrote her off after a rough month were wrong. And the ones who put a top 5 MVP graphic on national television without her name on it found out how wrong in real time a few minutes later. Caitlin Clark was never misunderstood by accident. She was misunderstood because it was easier to write the story than to watch the games, and now the games are impossible to ignore. She's healthy, she's efficient, she's breaking records that have stood since the league began, and the loudest people in the room a few months ago suddenly have nothing to say. Turns out the manufactured star just manufactured the best 2 weeks of basketball in the WNBA. If you liked the video, subscribe and comment what video you want next. I will be doing a community giveaway at 1,000 subs. See you soon.